Chapter 16. Destiny of the Jews. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Isa 11:12. Even though some of the Jews are responsible for one of the greatest atrocities in the history of the world, most of them will eventually be converted to accepting Christ. The worst of them will pay the necessary price, but the others who are still looking for their Messiah will find their proper place in history. Brigham Young stated, "By and by the Jews will be gathered to the land of their fathers, and the 10 tribes, who wandered into the north, will be gathered home, and the blood of Ephraim, the second son of Joseph, who was sold into Egypt, which is to be found in every kingdom and nation under heaven, will be gathered from among the Gentiles. JD 12:38. They will re-establish their temple, their city, Jerusalem, and their nation." Again quoting Brother Brigham, "Let me here say a word to the Jews. We do not want you to believe our doctrine. If any professing to be Jews should do so, it would prove that they are not Jews. A Jew cannot now believe in Jesus Christ. The decree has gone forth from the Almighty that they cannot have the benefit of the atonement until they gather to Jerusalem, for they said, 'Let his blood be upon us, and upon our children.' Consequently, they cannot believe in him until his second coming. We have a great desire for their welfare, and are looking for the time soon to come when they will gather to Jerusalem, build up the city in the land of Palestine, and prepare for the coming of the Messiah. When he comes again, he will not come as he did when the Jews rejected him, neither will he appear first at Jerusalem when he makes his second appearance on the earth, but he will appear first on the land where he commenced his work in the beginning, and planted the Garden of Eden, and that was done in the land of America. When the Savior visits Jerusalem, and the Jews look upon him, and see the wounds in his hands and in his side and in his feet, they will then know that they have persecuted and put to death the true Messiah, and then they will acknowledge him, but not till then. They have confounded his first and second coming, expecting his first coming to be as a mighty prince instead of as a servant. They will go back by and by to Jerusalem and own their Lord and Master. We have no feelings against them. I wish they were all gentlemen, men of heart and brain, and knew precisely how the Lord looks upon them." JD 11:279. Even Jesus is looking forward to the time when he can go back to Jerusalem and make a second appearance to the Jews. In latter-day revelation he said, "And then shall the Jews look upon me and say, 'What are these wounds in thine hands and in thy feet?' Then shall they know that I am the Lord, for I will say unto them, 'These wounds are the wounds with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. I am he who was lifted up. I am Jesus that was crucified. I am the Son of God.' And then shall they weep because of their iniquities, then shall they lament because they persecuted their King." D&C 45:51-53. Wilford Woodruff explained more about the gathering of the Jews, and also the persecution they would experience before the Savior appears to them. And they have to fulfill the words of the Lord still further. As I have been reading to you today, the Jews have got to gather to their own land in unbelief. They will go and rebuild Jerusalem and their temple. They will take their gold and silver from the nations and will gather to the Holy Land, and when they have done this and rebuild their city, the Gentiles, in fulfillment of the words of Ezekiel, Jeremiah and other prophets, will go up against Jerusalem to battle and to take a spoil and a prey, and then, when they have taken one half of Jerusalem captive and distressed the Jews for the last time on the earth, their great deliverer, Shiloh, will come. They do not believe in Jesus of Nazareth now, nor ever will until he comes and sets his foot on Mount Olivet, and it cleaves in twain, one part going towards the east, and the other towards the west. Then, when they behold the wounds in his hands and in his feet, they will say, 'Where did you get them?' And he will reply, 'I am Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, your Shiloh, him whom you crucified.' Then, for the first time will the eyes of Judah be opened. They will remain in unbelief until that day. This is one of the events that will transpire in the latter day." JD 15:278. If the Jews of today take all their gold, silver, and precious things out of the Gentile nations and gather to the Holy Land, it would cause a catastrophe. They would blame the Jews for their financial problems and would go to war against them. Blood would again be spilt in Jerusalem, but this time the Gentiles would be at fault, and Shiloh would come to rescue his people.